what do you mean by digital in the selling area? Okay, so there's all types of stats. One that always comes home to me is, it was in the US recently, is 67% up to 80% of buyer's journey are now done digitally without ever interacting with a salesperson. And here's a really interesting stat. Buyers are now only spending 17% of their time meeting with suppliers. 17%. If they're meeting with 4 suppliers, you've got about 3 to 4% of your time with a buyer. So that 83% of the time is digital. So the question is how do we address those channels? How do we address the 83% of the time that they're not working with us? Okay. So adjust to the digitalization of products and services, and how can we tap into the increasing need for customer centricity? What customer centricity means is that there's a recent survey done. The 2 top things that buyers are now looking for, B2B buyers I'm really talking about, is honesty and transparency. So they expect to find that online before they engage with an organisation. Yet when we look at organisations, how they digital sell, I'm not sure that buyer's journey has been matched. Okay, so really it's a 12-week course. We look at digital selling in the digital influenced era, so to give you the right tools, insights and knowledge to probably prepare yourself for our understand the modern sales process and looking at the changing customer behaviours. How many are involved in digital selling at the moment? Or so selling is not getting easier. Okay, so paradoxically, selling is getting easier because in the low decision making, low regret purchasing decisions, it's easy. So that's why about 1 million salespeople, Forrester said, will lose their jobs. They said by 2020 they're adjusting it upwards, but you can see it already. Companies I'm working with in the US are cutting their sales force. So paradoxically, it's getting easier. The flip side, what you're left with, it's getting harder. How many people do you think is involved in a typical B2B? If you take a 5,000 purchase decision, how many buyers are now involved? One. 7 to 10. Okay. So that's a massive challenge. So I just had the case of that yesterday where somebody was selling and the person left the company. There was a buyer committee and they don't know who the buying committee is. And the buying committee are all be given different tasks as part of the customer journey. So that's a challenge for salespeople as well. So it's also facilitated the connection of about 8 million devices. So we're all moving mobile. So that whole landscape, that whole buyer-supplier relationship that we came to know is now probably obsolete. They have different expectations, they have different needs, and when we look at the buyer's journey, which we used to look at as linear, is now looping all over the place because there's a buying committee involved with different needs, conflicting interests. So that brings a lot of I suppose, demand and change from a salesperson's point of view to match that in the digital era. So what do we mean by the digital era? We're talking about the adoption of technologies and channels that are employed not just by us as sellers, but as buyers. And we're probably behind the loop. As much as 70% of the buyers have said now that buying has actually got more complex. So for example, in Oracle, the sign-off process for senior managers has gone from quite a considerable amount of money down to a low amount of money because of the complexity involved in the decision-making process. The other big point that's coming across is, you heard of challenger sale, solution selling, consultative selling. Okay, that is the top end of the iceberg. Okay, at the bottom of the iceberg, in this whole journey, the 83% that we're not seeing, they're expecting companies to add value. The big question is how are we adding that value? Where do we add it? And more importantly, when do we add it? Because according to the buyer's journey, they want different value at different stages of that buyer's journey. But yet, in organizations, we still probably have the same sales process of acquire, develop, maintain a customer, probably obsolete as well. So, digital transformation has actually probably been done at this stage. Okay, so when we look at data, we look at how it's involved, how it's impacting marketing, sales, how we actually deliver our services. CX, again, it's now becoming one of the top 3 things buyers are looking for. And they're actually researching it about online. What is a company's customer experience? Not just from post-sale, but pre-sale, during the sale. Okay? So hopefully should lead to better client retention, better client acquisition, and better marketing ROI. Of course, you've probably read it. It's 12 weeks where we go through the 12 building blocks. So what does selling mean today? What the impact it is having? Go look at the psychology of selling in the digital world, because we now know that the biggest group of buyers are millennials. So about 55% of all buyers, in B2B buyers, are now millennials. It's going to grow to 70%. So they're now displaying the same characteristics as B2C consumer behaviour. So that's important to understand in this whole area of psychology selling. We look at that modern buyer's journey, how it loops around. We look at the buyer's why. They haven't changed, but they have changed in relation to the digital world. Why change? Why you? Why now? A few more. Okay? We look at the buyer roadblocks. Every time we sell, we're asking buyers or the buying committee to undertake a change management process. These are the internal roadblocks that we don't see. So if we have 1 or 2 contacts in the company, we're probably missing 5 or 6. They've all got competing challenges, and these are roadblocks. These aren't objections to a sale. These are actually roadblocks. Question, it's not a trick out. Gartner a few years ago did a survey, and I did a survey recently, and with some company. What percentage of buyers go through the whole sales process and never make a decision? That's we put it on hold. That project would be kicking off. What percentage? And this comes from Salesforce as well. Salesforce read the whole survey. What percentage of buyers make it through the whole way through the sales process and make no decision?
60%.
Up or lower?
I think it's higher.
Yeah.
Go on, give a guess then.
Let's say
I
it's
know.
80%.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
80%.
Yeah, 85%. Make it through the whole way through the sales process, never make a decision.
That's me.
Is that a decision or a non-decision?
It's a non-decision because they don't have compelling reasons. It's a change management process, and they're looking at information. So one of the biggest reasons they get is they got conflicting information during the buyer's journey. Should be this, should be that. Well, that company is great. Well, they're not so great. So they get so much conflicting information that it's quite easy with 6 people in a room to push that out. So the challenge in digital selling or in the modern sales process is how do we get high enough on the buyer's priority list so those events never happen. But 85% make it through to the end and just stays there.
And to counteract that, I mean, trust is a huge factor.
Correct.
So
Yes.
face-to-face, traditional thing, to press the flesh, meet, make eye contact, get to know you, where we're on your holidays, how are the kids, how's your partner, da da da.
Still
So
hugely
hugely
important.
in the sound of digital.
Absolutely. And believe it or not, cold calling is
Yeah.
making a huge comeback. Yet it's a skill that's like the Cooper was nearly obsolete, but yet cold calling. Now how you use cold calling, that's really, really important. You have what I call a reason to call RTCs, but cold calling comes back agreed, because one of the biggest areas in digital selling is personalization. There's no better way of personalization than meeting somebody. But they're only meeting 17% of the time. That's the issue. And if you've got 4 people, you can't overestimate how long you think you have with a customer. What's really important is leading up to that event, how they shape their view of you, and what information do you have on them that will shape their opinion of you. These are the buyer whys. So we know from the buyer whys these questions are, but the biggest question they're asking is, why should I undertake a change management process? So we look at the sales strategy selection for digital selling. We look at customer target selection, ideal customer profiles. If you target everybody, you'll sell to nobody. And that's coming really important, because you have to, in a world where it's complex decision making and high regret, you have to be really careful what customers you chase after. Typical sales cycles have now gone out. So for example, it's no secret, Oracle sale, when I was in Oracle, our sales cycle was 2 to 3 months. Sales cycle in Oracle now is 6 to 8 months. Most companies in the sales cycle, not because I think they're doing internally, because the buying decisions got more complex. What your true value proposition is, and again, this comes back to things like transparency, honesty, digital selling and content, how much content is shaping. But the old content of how to this or how to that or tips and tricks is gone. What they're looking for is far more deeper content. They're looking for far more ungated content. I still see companies and the white papers are gated. Buyers don't want that. They want ungated content. They don't want to give their information in because they know what's going to happen. Okay. What is the modern sales process? How does that align to the buyer's journey? Then I talk about the thing called the sales habit loop, which is linked back to a lot about the psychology of selling and how the sales force is structured. And then we look at the 6 C's of successful digital selling. So that's kind of the course in a 12-week wrap. So hopefully you'll understand how the buyer's buyer relationship with the digital era, know what type of triggers, events, and stories that kickstart a buyer's journey. So huge amount of triggers actually are now kickstarting buyer's journey. Salespeople are not kickstarting buyer's journey. Even when the salesperson are coming to you, the buyer's journey has started 67% of the time. It's where they're coming in. So we know that companies that can influence the buyer's journey at the beginning stand about a 40% chance better winning a deal. How to prioritize your target customers and segments. Design optimized sales plans. Know how and when to use content, and when not to use it. Because while content is hugely powerful, buyers are also telling us that they're overwhelmed with the amount of information they're getting. In actual fact, a recent study also showed that buyers are disengaging with companies because they're getting too much information. They're bottom of the funnel and they're getting information here, newsletters, they're getting phone calls, they're just disengaging. Because we're not understanding the buyer's journey. Also what part they've played in the buyer's committee. They might be just an influencer, they might have been sent out to get information, yet we're bombarding them with information as if they're a decision maker. So we're now omni-channel, social media, inbound marketing, proactive selling, customer acquisition, account management. Just also try and experiment with new insights to lead and inspire you and your sales team. Something we don't talk about in sales training is the whole area of sales mindset. And my belief is that the sales mindset is far greater than sales skills. But it's an interesting argument to have. And design a high performance plan to implement. And hopefully you leave with a growth mindset. Okay, know that you complete the course, know that you can shape your own sales management career, that of the people around you, and what it means for them moving forward, and plus contribute to how your company shapes its sales strategy for the digitally influenced era. So it's about coming away with a plan, and it's all about a growth mindset. I can take digital selling, I can combine it with whatever traditional forms of selling we do, and our sales process, and we come up with a plan. And what it should lead to is to accelerate the acquisition of customers, more retention of customers. Customer loyalty is at a low time low. Switching has become easier. The SaaS word means switching costs are low. I can switch from Amazon to Azure to anybody else tomorrow morning. Large corporations can now switch CRM systems. They can switch a lot of technology stacks. So customer loyalty is at low, yet their customer expectations around customer experience is at an all-time high. So it's trying to get those matched. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions you want to ask?
What are the dates? So when does it actually start?
It starts in February.
It's the week of the 24th.
4.
Yes.
We're supposed to start with Gary, unfortunately, the way, and it's a 12-week course.
Do you deliver each of the sessions?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Assignments, work, coursework?
So I have I could give you about 3 books on this. We go through a lot of exercises because I can give you insights, but learning is shared. So the whole purpose is to actually really drive our thinking on it and share experiences.
Role play, that kind of stuff?
Role plays, exercises, research. So one piece of research I do is take a product and let's see how much we can find out about it without ever touching a salesperson. And for your own business or your own industry, if nothing else from today, do it. because it's amazing what you can find out. So you can find out, so without ever talking to a salesperson,
Unfortunately, Google disrupted the salesman's plan many years ago.
it's gone, yeah. You can find everything from price, so that poses the question, what is the value of a salesperson? Because if I took a CRM system, I can find everything about the CRM system, pricing, seats, costs, everything, functionality, free trial, everything. Never touch a salesperson. Then you'd have to ask the question, where is the value of the salesperson? And if I do interact with them, what is their value? Because I know I'm expecting value, I'm not sure they're expecting to add that value. Millennials are making up the vast majority of the B2B buying group. And they're, in the next 5 years, and just don't think about today or tomorrow, think 5 years down the line, they're going to be that. So they're buying now like consumers. They're buying, believe it or not, these buyers spend longer, this is a great one, they spend longer considering what phone to buy than what car to buy.
Yeah.
So that kind of impact, and they're now already
They
in the
also
B2B.
say, why do I need a car?
And they're already in the B2B and buying group. So they're displaying B2C consumer behaviour. That's what the psychology is selling, is now coming into the B2B area, because they're actually displaying the same characteristics. They're researching, they're finding information out, they're coming nearly to the buying, they're actually coming to the vendors that 70% of the time aren't a lot of information. The complexity is whereas buying the phone, they're buying it for themselves, the complexity is there's a buying committee of 7 to 10 people with budgetary vagueness around where does it sit, and that's where salespeople are going to earn their crust. That's where sales management is going to earn their crust in the next 5 years. It won't be in transactional selling. It won't be in transactional selling because AI, data, chat, etc., bots, and all that will take over that. Yeah. So salespeople will be left with what we used to call traditionally the arm breakers, the top people. They have the budgets, they know what they want, but they have high expectations. So this is complex decision making and high regret. Longer sales cycles. Yeah. Are sales organizations set up to operate like that? Or are they still trying to shoehorn people into a sales process? Getting away, we need to get away from the I need sales, because that line doesn't work. People only buy in price when they can't see the difference in two products. And that's the challenge in a commoditized world. If they don't see the difference, they'll buy in price. But those customers will now be served self-served, served by internet, served by bots, served by AI. They will not be served in the next 5 years. They will not be served by salespeople. The cost of sale is too high. Dell has already started,
So is there a move towards back towards that consultative sales approach, the C-suite, the relationship across multiple layers?
Yeah. And what do you call that? Challenger, solution, consultative. That's really less important. Whatever you call, that's really less important. Really, it's really is your customer target base. So what's your TAM, your total addressable market? You're really looking at that, going, okay, it's this big, but this part's been done self-service. If we have different products and people with different customer sets, so really what you're looking at is your TAM model and going, okay, so how do we set ourselves up for this? Knowing that what's shaping them is, the buying committee, consumer-like behaviour, the centricity of looking for, information, consistency, transparency, honesty. Some people believe that buyers are probably 3 years ahead of where sales organizations are. Where it used to be, I started selling in the 80s and in the 90s, and we were a good year ahead of buyers. We were a good year. We could tell them what they wanted, but and I'm including Dell in this, but actually, by the time they cottoned on, we just move it on again. And I look at Dell and Oracle and Apple now, exact opposite. Buyers are further down the line. So they adopted digital transformation faster, the buying than companies did, selling.
Right, thank you.
No problem. Thanks very much for coming along. We enjoyed the evening.